Afternoon, everyone that's joining us today. Thank you so much. The interest in these masterclasses has been a real pleasant surprise over the last couple of months. They seem to have grown in popularity each week. And I appreciate this week's quite different. I know that we've got the vast majority of our customers between us and Feed It Back, at least opening a percentage of their venues on Monday. So, finding time to carve out an hour today is really appreciated. And let's make sure it's worth it for you. I've had a sneak peek of the content and it is brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much to our friends at Feed It Back for taking the time to put this together. And thank you for joining us, Julia. It's great of you guys to find the time. It's wonderful. In terms of a bit of a summary for anyone that's not joined us on one of these before, the Masterclass series has been going on since start of February, I think, as part of our Comeback Strong campaign, Airship and Toggle. Everything else that's been part of it is still live. So we're still doing our fireside chat, still doing the masterclasses, which are the real kind of jewel in the crown of this series, each Thursday at 1 o'clock. And also, Toggle and Airship are still free of charge for anyone joining from the hospitality sector all the way through till June the 1st. So if you think we can help, just get in touch with our team. And also the wonderful return of Track and Trace, which is causing a lot of headaches. If you think we can help with that, either the Airship Track and Trace platform is still live, can be turned on really quickly. And we're not charging any licenses for Airship or Toggle customers. So drop our team a message. We'll get you sorted for Monday if you need us to. But I imagine everyone's ready. Right, on to the much more interesting stuff. So I don't imagine anyone needs introducing to who Feed It Back are. I think they're incredibly well established in the sector and they've done some amazing things over the years that I've known them. I'm going to hand the microphone over to Julia shortly to blow everyone's socks off. But I thought it'd be worth mentioning how kind of we've met and we know each other in the two companies. So I think you and I personally probably met at One Moorgate Place at a Propel event, propping up the bar.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
yeah, I'm sure a long time. I mean, lots of networking events and lots of cocktails and beers. So I think our memories are slightly cloudy on that, but it was, many years ago. And since then we've worked, previously my time at Wireless Social, worked really closely with Feed It Back. And even more so now at Airship and Toggle, the things that we can do in partnership are pretty amazing. In terms of bringing across, I won't steal your thunder, but bringing across that level of customer data and insight on such a granular level and being able to do such cool things with it. It makes a real difference for our customers that plug it into both Airship for the data coming in and Toggle for the ability to send out gift cards and vouchers through the Feed It Back platform. I've seen some really cool use of that so far. So hopefully a really big thing for operators this coming year. In terms of Feed It Back, to give a bit of an intro for anyone that might not have come across these guys before, they are the customer experience dashboard for hospitality operators. So their platform gathers data to tell you how your customers are feeling about your business. It shows you how you're performing by a state or region or value in really granular detail. So you can see what your customers love, what your customers think you need to possibly be focusing on to improve so they can turn to recommenders themselves. And I have seen, very similar to a lot of suppliers to hospitality, Feed It Back really get their teeth into your team and become part of kind of the family there. So a lot of the projects where we're working with a Feed It Back customer, we'll see Julie or one of the team pop up on the call and we'll all get stuck in together. It's a really hands-on approach because they've seen firsthand trends from other operators and they see little subtle things that they might notice that you might not when you're first getting into this realm of you really should pay attention to that over there, or we've seen this before and the best way to remedy it is X, Y, and Z. And it reflects in their customer list. So, you've got more than I can list during this webinar, but people like Loungers and Boston Tea Party, Tenpin, Marston's, Fridays, Paul UK. The list goes on. If anyone's seen Feed It Back at one of the networking events, your stands are fantastic because they're just showered in positive quotes from your customers. And Julia, personally, is I think your official title is Head of Client Services or Head of Customer Obsession. But I think you've worn many hats and have been involved in almost everything Feed It Back has done over the years.
We're all a bit hands on deck.
yeah, I've seen it's great. And so Julie and her team look after all clients, they provide insight and they work closely to ensure that hospitality operators are using that data in the most effective way. And that's the subject matter of today's masterclass. Is Julia sharing some of that insight that her and her team have seen, over all time in the sector, but specifically over the last year, and what we can use to inform you as you reopen. So I'm going to shut up because I'm bringing no valuable content to today's session. I'm going to hand the microphone over to you, Julia, and let you walk us through what you wanted to talk us through today.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam. Thanks everyone for joining. So Sam mentions I head up the client services team. So we do all the onboarding, ongoing support of all of our clients. And ultimately our role is to make sure that everybody gets the best from using our system. In the session today, the objectives of this session are really to share with you some of our learnings from sort of the last few months, really, after lockdown 1, some feedback from around Christmas as well, and then some of the expectations that we have been gathering and the predictions for after this lockdown, which is slowly coming out from Monday onwards, and we're all super excited about that. I'm also going to share with you some advice on really how to make the most of your guest data, and again, this is the work that we would do very closely with our clients to be able to help make effective use of that data. And then some practical tips as well. As Sam has already given us a brief intro, I'll just literally super quick, a couple of slides just to really explain how that kind of breaks down in terms of the customer experience dashboard, kind of quick intro from us. We have surveys that are available as part of the overall system, and the survey feedback that we analyse has contributed a lot to these insights that I'll be sharing with you today. We're using surveys for at-home experiences, DIY kits, takeaway, click and collect, even employee engagement over the last few months. Lots of our clients have been using that as well as the kind of the general dine-in, eat-in, guest satisfaction surveys. We pull in social reviews from Google, Facebook and TripAdvisor. So the 3 core channels, and those are within the system, and you can also analyse those, see the comments and respond to them, as well as social streams from the social media platforms too. Within our case management part of the system, you can respond to all of that feedback. So responding to perhaps just negative feedback or responding to all of it, but we have a whole module there around team collaboration and external communication as well, responding to reviews, responding to DMs and so on. And then sitting over the top of that is a new layer, which is text analytics. And that's about really taking the data and effectively categorizing it into areas. So you don't kind of have to analyze the comments as in depth as you would if you were just kind of reading them. And essentially it's your eyes and ears on everything that is guest related, customer related. Some of our clients, again, we've got a whole load more. You can visit our website for that, but just a handful of our clients there. So that's my brief intro done as to who we are. So a big part of what we do at Feedback is to analyse not just our clients' data and to help our clients understand their data, but also to analyse industry data. So we can gather all of these various different data points and put that together from an industry perspective. We're pulling in hundreds of thousands of surveys and NPS surveys, reviews, dish ratings every single month. So we have a wealth of data available, and we can break that also down by industry segment as well. So some of our post-lockdown 1 learnings were, this is looking at February 2020, so pre-COVID, through to then July, the first month that everybody was reopening. And we measure Net Promoter Score. Now, Net Promoter Score is a score that you probably see mentioned in sometimes board reports. Some operators will very much have this as one of their core measures, and others kind of know of it but don't really use it as a core measure. But it is something that is recognised across the world and across multiple industries. So it's a really good one to be able to compare yourself to. NPS is calculated from the question, how likely are you to recommend us? And there's some maths to work out the score, which is expressed as a number between -100 and +100. Anyway, maths lesson over. There is a blog post on our website if you want to know more about that calculation. So in July 2020, we saw actually the Net Promoter Score being quite consistent with February. So it felt that nothing had really slipped in there. And then actually the opening weekend, that July the 4th opening weekend, we saw that NPS really rocket up. But with Eat Out to Help Out coming into play, obviously, huge rush on, lots of people coming out with that whole campaign, we did see then the NPS score drop and the average service score, which was a big contributor to that. So I think, it's something to be aware of, that with this reopening next week, you are going to be busy and service could suffer. So just be ready for that is really our advice there. Some other key themes that came through in terms of the negative side of what people were saying very early on after lockdown 1 was to do with availability of food items on the day. And this was really quite a big source of the negative feedback. And you can see some of those kind of quotes that we've pulled from various different social reviews. So those are from Google or TripAdvisor 1 and 2 star reviews. And if it was a dislike or a thumbs down on Facebook recommendations. So 11% of negative social reviews referred to limited menus or reduced menus and availability of items on the day. So again, one thing to really, really be aware of, that you may need to maybe better communicate if you've got a reduced menu, and make sure that you've got that kind of availability of items on the day with clear communication if you do run out.
It's amazing, isn't it, that in our heads that's so obvious because we're in the sector and we appreciate what's changed, but I guess we're so close to the woods you can't see that the public aren't, possibly not considering it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we're kind of aware now that many operators will be open with reduced menus. It might just be that they're still kind of the same menu with some tweaks, from July, but it's just about kind of have that clear communication and setting the expectation up front to avoid that sort of disappointment.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, if I go to the supermarket and there's no toilet roll and no pasta, I still curse the supermarket, even though I know they're doing amazingly well to stay where they are. Yeah, fair, very fair.
One thing that we were tracking as well, right from July, and we're still continuing to track this, is a question in many of our surveys. Our clients choose to have this in their surveys, and it's, did our COVID procedures give you confidence to return? And we track this every single week, and we sent a weekly report to our customers to enable them to see where they sat in comparison to the industry. And this was super helpful for many operators because they could see where they were falling down. And this was a yes, no, why question. So if it was yes, great, we can see that the industry figure was 95%, so really high from the people that were visiting and eating out July onwards. But those people that said no, then we asked for some further information, and I'll share that on the next slide. So, really, really high level of confidence to return. And I think we were tracking something like 15,000 surveys or responses a week for this question. So, a really robust figure to help clients make decisions on. Out of those people that said no, spacing was mentioned 41% of the time, and cleanliness was mentioned 26% of the time. And I think our advice for you there is really to think about careful table spacing. I should also say, actually, masks or lack of face coverings came through very much in the early days, but when that became mandatory, obviously we saw that really, really drop off. And actually some of our clients chose to implement their teams wearing masks even before the government had mandated it, and because they had such an overwhelming desire from customers to see their teams in masks. But once that was removed, then table spacing and social distancing and cleanliness really came through as key themes. And I think here, consider your table spacing, particularly when it's quiet. What was really frustrating for customers is that half the restaurant would be empty, but all of the tables were quite close to each other. And then we know as operators that, your table management system is going to perhaps put people, all in one section. So your teams, you can easily handle that. But actually, is that the right thing to do? Could you space them out slightly differently and move people to other areas of your venue, particularly if you've got the space to do that? And that was a massive cause of frustration, particularly when it was quiet. So really, really carefully consider that. And from a cleanliness perspective, actually cleanliness scores were really, really high. But what customers were not seeing is that visible cleaning. So, people really getting the D10 out and wiping down those tables in between settings and so on. So visible cleaning, really, really essential as well. I'm going to share with you a little study that we did with one of our clients, and this is Wildwood. And although you can't see the scores, actually they were tracking week on week their net promoter score in line with confidence to return. And we again would send them a weekly report. And here you can literally see that line going up. So as confidence to return went up, so did their NPS, and in fact, so did all their other scores as well. And NPS, that willingness to recommend, means that positive word of mouth is going to have quite a big impact. And again, where there were some issues, they were easily able to jump on those and act on that data as well. So this just shows as well that confidence to return, and really listening to what your customers are saying can have a massive effect on your NPS. So in terms of some of the positives, you'll see a key theme throughout this presentation is that all year round delivering consistent, amazing guest experiences is really essential. And what we saw in the period from July through to December is that good food and good service were the key drivers of praise. So these are praise topics. What are people saying that is positive coming through in surveys and reviews and so on? And good food and good service were absolutely key, and then followed by atmosphere as well. In terms of the negatives, though, food was the top concern overall when looking at complaints. So these are where guests have given negative feedback, or they may have emailed in, but for whatever reason, they've had cause to complain. And we can see that food quality is the number one, accounting for just over 13% of complaints, but really closely followed by value for money. And value for money is a bit of an interesting one because, you know, it is very subjective, and we can also see, you know, the other complaint topics that came through as well. Now, with value being such a subjective topic, actually, you really need to understand the reasons behind value that are actionable, because price isn't something that is, you know, you're going to be in control of. The price is going to be set. Certainly your GMs are not going to be in control of price, but what they are going to be in control of is portion size, food quality, the overall experience that contributes to that value perception. So really what we're saying here is operational execution issues are the key drivers behind poor value for money quite often. And you need to be able to drill down into those details. So here we saw that 31% of guests raised a service-related complaint when they scored low on value, 25% it was to do with food, and 13% to do with food availability. So whatever you are using to gather your feedback, make sure that value is not just about price. Make it about operational execution and items that are actionable. So my lockdown 1 lesson summary for you is be prepared to be busy, fingers crossed. Can't wait to get out myself next week. Yeah. Focus on consistent execution of food and service because we know that that's what customers are craving for. Carefully plan your table layout, and if you are quiet and you can space guests out, it will really, really pay off. Do visible cleaning. And communicate effectively if items are not available on the day or you're running a reduced menu. Just make sure that you've got some clear levels of communication there. Okay, moving on. So when we came into Christmas time, obviously we saw many parts of the country being affected by tier 3 and tier 4 restrictions. So closures kind of left, right and centre, and it was really hard we've got clients in Wales and in Scotland and in Ireland, and it was hard to keep up with who was open at what time and so on. But we did manage to track, I think, 72,000 survey responses just in December alone across 85 different operators, so a significant amount. And there were a couple of questions that many of our customers put into their Christmas surveys, or their December surveys. So one is, why did you select us for your Christmas celebration? Now, we know it was a bit of an unusual Christmas, so it was clear that many people were not going out for a Christmas celebration. They were just happy to get out and obviously be out with their family, you know, rule of 6 applying and so on. And so that's why we see here the majority of people who responded to this were not visiting for a Christmas celebration. However, those that did visit for a Christmas celebration, and this is a trend we've seen year on year, is that that they were rebooking because they had enjoyed a previous visit. And this is a huge influencing factor, not just for Christmas we see year on year, but for all seasonal events. Just that whole consistency of delivering fantastic experiences. Just if you need and you want to get those Christmas sales in, actually your teams have to be delivering these fantastic experiences throughout the year. Interestingly, also here, we saw location as being a bigger factor than we had seen in previous years. And that was very much to do with, you know, restrictions and travel restrictions in place and convenient location, people maybe not wanting to travel too far and taxis and so on. Then actually convenient location was a bigger influencing factor than it had been in previous years. Possibly that may change then in 2021. Very interesting, we see that package price there is really not an influencing factor at all. So again, think about that moving forwards. Menu selection, a very small part of the reasons why guests will choose you as well. And certainly Christmas menu is, again, way down on there. And that kind of leads me on, because we asked a very specific question in Christmas surveys this year, and that was around, what would be your preferred choice to eat from when dining out in December? And you can see there, actually, the majority of the people, 2/3 of people, would prefer a main menu with some festive specials as opposed to a festive set menu. Now, we know that this is a huge challenge for operators every Christmas, and not just Christmas, but again, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's. You've got to create a menu, you've got to print it, you've got to stock those items in. There may be items that you don't normally stock, so you may have additional wastage to factor in. And then you also have to train your teams into executing these special menus, maybe just even for one day, if it's Mother's Day or Valentine's and so on. And, we're saying to you, maybe you don't need to do that. Because actually what we see is that customers come to you because they love your experiences all year round, and they know that they're going to get great food and great service, great atmosphere. And they don't necessarily want a special set menu, but they're happy to have your core menu with some little flavours thrown in as well. So, really kind of think about that as you move forward with the next seasonal events. We've missed Mother's Day, but we've got Father's Day coming up in June. So again, maybe think about whether or not you do need to run a special menu. And if you're unsure yourself, again, maybe poll your own customer base and ask them in advance, this very question, but in preparation for you to do something about that for the next seasonal event. Christmas 2020, we know, was a one-off, or let's hope so, but operators also wanted to know what else they could be doing to make the visit more special. We know that there were restrictions in place, and that undoubtedly had an impact on atmosphere, but what else could they have done to make that a little bit more special? Once we kind of stripped out any COVID-related comments in answer to this question, and these were from guests who scored NPS 0 to 8, so not promoters, so people who are kind of more on the negative side of things, we saw that the key theme coming through was more, and people kind of just wanted a little bit more attention, or a little bit quicker service, or more drinks, and really the opportunity here is for you to just go that extra mile and to offer that little bit kind of more attentive service and so on. So that was what guests were saying that they wanted at that Christmas time, to be able to make everything feel a little bit more special. So kind of post-December recommended actions here are around delivering fantastic experiences all year round to drive those Christmas sales, and not just Christmas sales, Valentine's, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and so on. How well have you engaged with your customer base over these lockdowns? Have you reached out? Could you reach out this summer to guests who have visited you previously in preparation for Christmas? I know it's crazy to be talking about Christmas 2021, but we know that many people are doing photo shoots kind of mid-August. So actually, I'm sure many marketeers are starting to think about that already. Obviously, Sam and the guys at Airship could come in handy here, because they could do some mailers around maybe lapsed visitors or visitors who came to you over the December period. So you could ask them a question as well to find out what they think about these kind of set menus versus core menus and so on.
It's such a good idea. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
No, that's fine. I think you've got all that data sitting there, so why not use it to start reaching out and understand your customer base in preparation for those events. Use Airship to help here, and being more attentive will really pay off. Don't forget, there's going to be plenty of upsell opportunities as well, the more attentive you can be. So, make it your mission to sort of go above and beyond and deliver that fantastic service as well. Okay, so post-lockdown 3 expectations. So this is kind of all what we're preparing for. Actually, we have just completed in March a customer pulse market research survey where we worked with a number of clients, and we put together this kind of market research survey that our clients use through their CRM platforms like Schitt to send out to their customer base. And we had around 12,000 responses across restaurants, bars, pubs and fast casual. And I'm going to share with you some of these highlights. We have got the full insight pack, which is literally going up onto our website today. So you'll be able to download that full insight pack from our website. And if you're interested in joining the next Customer Pulse survey, we are going to do this 6 monthly. So please feel free to reach out. You don't have to be a customer of ours. We're more than happy for you to send this out through your database, and we'll gather the report for you. So we've kind of done the industry report, as well as for our clients, we've done their report so they can compare against the industry as well. So do get in touch if you want us to do that. So I'm just going to kind of share some highlights there. So we asked a whole different bunch of questions. Habits was kind of one of the things that we really wanted to understand. So pre-COVID and post-COVID, what do you think your intentions are? So pre-COVID, we asked, where did you visit more frequently? And post-COVID, where are you likely to visit? I think first thing to really kind of note here is that independent restaurants. Now, we saw a real intent to support independent restaurants, as you can see from these graphs. However, think about the perception of an independent restaurant. Not every single consumer will know what an independent restaurant is versus perhaps a smaller, less known branded chain, shall we say. So I think, we've got to take that with a bit of a pinch of salt there as well, because the perception might be that a restaurant is an independent when actually they just put across a really great independent vibe. And I think, that's something to think about when it comes to marketing strategy and content and so on. And in actual fact, many customers will have local social media pages, even though, again, they're more of a kind of a national brand. So what can we see here? So pre-COVID, over a quarter of respondents said that they want to visit independent restaurants, and younger city dwellers. And again, I've not shown the breakdown here of age range and demographics, but this is in our full pack. But we definitely saw 18 to 24-year-olds, driving this sort of pent-up demand to get back into bars for sure. Post-COVID, what we saw is actually there was a 9% increase from pre-COVID score for independents, and Gen Z definitely wanting more bars. Coffee shops and grab and go venues, however, dropped 11% to 7% intention to visit. And again, this is what people are saying they're going to do. We can't report on post-COVID yet, because again, this is what people are saying they're going to do kind of starting Monday onwards. And I think, the coffee shops and the grab and go side of things, presumably we've got used to being at home and maybe kind of not having that, everyday coffee grab and go fix. So, potentially this sector might need to work a little bit harder to attract customers back in. When it comes to how we felt that guests may eat out more, one of the questions was post-COVID, I'm likely to eat out more often. Actually, really, really strong feeling for getting back out there and eating out more. So, 2/3 of people are saying that they're going to eat out more. Very much driven, again, as you can see, I have put the age ranges on this one because we can see that's heavily driven by the 18 to 34 group there as well. So, definitely keen. And that's why we're saying, just be prepared. I'm sure you've already seen that through your bookings, but, do be prepared to be busy. So this question is, great food and service safety measures are given. We want to kind of think away from that. What is most important to you when choosing where to eat and drink out? This is kind of thinking, not just next week, but a bit further ahead when restrictions are fully lifted. And it goes back to there, you can see it there, somewhere I know and love, 26% of respondents had said that's what they're going to do to choose. It's something that they recognise. Again, think back to my Christmas feedback, where I've enjoyed a previous visit. It's very much going to drive those visits. And I guess I can understand that it's natural. Our first night out is going to be somewhere, that we've waited this long to go out somewhere, and actually, we're going to go somewhere that is tried and tested. So again, how well have you engaged with your customers during lockdown and engaging with lapsed customers who may have previously enjoyed visits? They may not have visited you between July and December. We don't know what their circumstances were. But if pre-COVID, they were a happy customer, why not reach out to them and maybe do kind of a triggered campaign through that? Great atmosphere comes in second. You can see there that's 11%. And again, that's consistent with what we saw prior to Christmas as well. So great atmosphere being something that is really, really important. And again, we know that we saw atmosphere issues prior to December, where, you know, again, due to COVID, you couldn't mix with other people. The music was softer than it normally was. People are in masks. You know, it's not going to lend itself to giving a fantastic atmosphere. So what can you do to create a great atmosphere, even when it's quiet? Well, you've got a fantastic team there that can really, really help with that. And the other area to point out here is offers and promos. And we found that actually they resonated much more so with the younger demographic and in fast casual operators as well. But if you're not a discount-led brand, that doesn't mean to say that you can't use incentives for added value. And I'll share some sort of ideas on that in the summary of this section. Menu variety, that came in at 9%. Well, you know, we know that guests will accept a reduced menu as long as there is enough choice and good availability. So as long as your menu has that, then again, that will certainly be acceptable. So once in your chosen venue, which of these factors will be important? Now, we've put in a couple of things here, and later on I'll talk a little bit about kind of order and pay technology, but there are order and pay in here because we wanted to put that in the grand scheme of other areas. So how important is it to you when you are also looking at, you know, easy Wi-Fi access or hygiene ratings or an outdoor area as well? So you know, bear that one in mind for when we come and look at the order and pay question. So 15% of ability to reserve a table in advance. But actually 8% of people said that they also want to be able to walk in. So how can you cater for that balance? We saw that table spacing and the ability to order from server also increases as age increases as well. That's all on our detailed pack. I think here, this is just really, really important, and team friendliness that's also joint 15%. And, you know, we know that your teams are going to be in masks, at least for the foreseeable future, to just instill it into them that they're on stage, they need to have a smile, and even with the mask on the face, you know, you can tell this guy's eyes here, you can tell he is smiling under that mask. So team friendliness is a crucial thing that you need to be instilling into your serving team, that they've got to be cheerful, they've got to be friendly, and just make sure that they've got that smile on their face, even under a mask. Provide clarity on COVID procedures ahead of a visit if you can. So, you know, what comms are in place there? Again, is it on your kind of emailers? Is it in your booking confirmation? Is it on the website and so on? And that will really help. We asked the question, is sustainability and source of food and drink something that will influence your decision of where to dine? And this was just a really simple yes, no question. We did actually see more yeses in rural areas, but you know, how can you use this as a lever to set yourselves apart from the competition? And where can you highlight sustainable produce in your marketing and communications? You know, are you telling that story throughout? We also found that it resonated more so in premium casual operators than kind of more casual dining. But it was definitely, I was actually really quite surprised with these results. I knew it would be fairly high. I didn't really know that it would be, you know, 54% of people saying yes, it would be an influencing factor. So I think that's definitely one to watch. And we know that it's an industry trend, a growing industry trend as well. And here's our order and pay question. You know, do you prefer to order from a mobile device when dining in a venue? So actually, you know, nearly a third of people have said yes. And I think, oh my goodness, if there's one thing COVID has taught us, it's how to use a QR code, right? You know, we all know how to use a QR code. And whilst these results might not be music to order and pay providers' ears, actually, this figure is quite across a really wide demographic. Again, the full details are in our pack, but 18 to 24-year-olds, nearly half preferred to order with their mobile. And the line literally moves down as age increases as well. So I think overall this is pretty positive. And if you think where we were 2-3 years ago with order and pay technology, it's really, really come a long way. So, you know, we're working with a bunch of order and pay providers, as are our Schitt. So I think this is something that is here to stay. And if you have chosen chosen to implement a pay at table or an order and pay solution, actually, how can you ensure that you're just providing the necessary service to sort of answer questions if guests have that in mind, and if they also have kind of the need for physical menus. In case you're wondering, this QR code leads you to Feedback Insights. So
I've just tried it.
Did you? Very good, very good.
I just scanned it and I couldn't believe it. It's such a cool one. Why is it funkier than most?
Yeah, I've got a little secret. I'm going to tell you all my secret QR code website that I use now. It's called QR Code Monkey, and it's free. And you can create QR codes, you can create colours, you can change the little shapes and images, and you can upload a logo. So there you go. That's one for free. You can all have.
I was like, surely this can't work. Just scanning. Oh yes, there we are. I'm on your website. Amazing.
There you go. So you should, like I said, that this latest insights pack that I'm taking highlights from should be on there. If it's not, it will literally be on there by the end of today. So good hospitality is the key to bringing back a fifth of guests. So again, thinking what's going to bring you back time and time again. So we've talked about choosing a venue, we've talked about what's important when you're in a venue, but what's going to bring you back time and time again. And I've got to say, there it is again, nothing more than good hospitality. Get your foods right, get your service right, get those basics right, because people want to come back to you. They want you to do well, actually. And we often see that coming through in the feedback. I'm telling you this because I want you to get it right next time. I don't want to stop coming here. So, nothing more than good hospitality. 21% of respondents said that. Offers resonated more with 18 to 34-year-olds, and also were bigger in fast casual and grab and go operators as well. So, again, and loyalty schemes actually. So, we kind of expect that to see that. And casual dining operators, wide menu choice was actually the third most important there. So, yeah, important to see that as well. I think going back to offers, think about how they can be value-led and not discount-led. So as Sam mentioned, we have an integration with Toggle, we can issue out single-use EPOS redeemable vouchers. Actually, how can you do that as a way of rewarding your guests without it seeming discount-led? And there are lots of ways that we can do that. One thing that's also interesting here is personalised service, and we did see that although that's at 9%, we did see that rise with the age groups as well. So how can you think about offering guests a bit more of a personalised service? And Vic Searle, lovely Vic, she's done one of your masterclasses, isn't she? She will say this, and I've stolen this completely from her, but we in hospitality think that personalised service is receiving a birthday emailer, and actually it could be so much more, because you've got all of this data, you've got all of your data in a single customer view in Airship. Use that far more effectively. Set value-led offer was less important to winning customers back time and time again, and your menu doesn't need to change as often as long as you're executing that core menu really, really well. So recommended actions for this: consider how you can engage more on a local independent level, even if you're a big national brand. Team friendliness, service with a smile, good quality food is an absolute must. When it comes to food, focus on that, executing those dishes perfectly every time. And how are you managing that food feedback? Looking at sales alone isn't going to give you the full picture. So are you getting detailed, granular level at a robust level to be able to make decisions on? Are you getting that through whatever system you're using? Offers and promos don't need to be discount led, so think outside the box. And memorable first time experience. If you don't, you could potentially lose that customer. Do I have a quick time check? I'm doing okay, great.
We're fine.
Sustainability is also an influencing factor. So how are you telling that story? Make sure that's coming through clear, loud and clear. COVID, think about table spacing and visible cleaning, clear communication. Order and pay, what we did see, and again, this is in our full detail pack, is that those people that said they didn't want to order using a mobile device, is the main reasons were that they wanted to ask questions and they wanted to have a physical menu. So actually, could you still encourage use of ordering on a mobile device, but making sure that you've got team on hand to help, and you've got physical menus as well. And I think that's just something to be aware of. Balancing reservations in advance as well as walk-ins. You are going to have a lot of disappointed people. If you've filled up on reservations in advance, whilst that's great to be able to manage that, you're going to get some disappointed people who have walked in and can't be seated. And, us at Feedback, we're obsessed with detail. So be obsessed with detail and try and really think about personalising that service. So that's a whole of my insights bits that I have wanted to share with you. And again, we'll obviously make this available. But what I wanted to spend a few minutes on was, you know, you may have various different data sources coming in to be able to sort of gather your customer feedback, but, you know, how can you really use that effectively? So here are kind of my more practical tips. Gather all of your data sources. So again, you know, we would really recommend that you're looking at surveys, email complaints, or even telephone calls that have been made, reviews, all your social DMs. Make sure that you've got a holistic picture, and try and categorize those feedbacks. So for example, service, speed of service, and actually going down to an even more granular detail, speed to order, speed for my bill to be brought over, whatever it happens to be. But try and categorize those so you can understand not just, you know, what the topic is, but also at a site level where the nuances are and where areas need to really be worked on. So do that kind of branch level analysis as well. Take action on those focus areas. So it's no good having all this amazing feedback if, as operators, you're not prepared to take action on those areas, and working with your teams to implement an action plan. When we are training in with GMs, we will recommend, you know, a weekly deep dive of the dashboard and the comments and the analysis to make an action plan, and then a regular daily check to monitor progress. And that is not too onerous. You know, you don't want it to be all encompassing, that your GMs are constantly looking at data and not doing the job that is at hand. But a quick check regularly will allow you to make sure that you're on plan. And by doing a sort of a weekly deep dive, you can use that to inform the action plan. And that's kind of really what this is all about. It's using all this data to be able to say, okay, we know the area that we need to focus on. We've got problems getting bills out to people. Let's just make sure we're focusing on that this week. So really taking action on those focus areas, monitoring the progress, and celebrating successes. You know, it's just so nice to have positive feedback coming in, and the positives very often do really outweigh the negatives, but just make sure you're celebrating those too. Overlay your different data sources. So in this example, I've got here Net Promoter Score versus visit frequency. And we often do this for insights packs for our customers, where we break down, you know, Net Promoter Score is broken down into detractors, those people that score 0 to 6 in answer to the question, how likely are you to recommend us? Passives, those people who score 7 or 8, and promoters, those people that score 9 and 10. And we break those down because that you know, it's a really, really easy way to be able to see this alongside visit frequency. And you can see here, just the colours indicate we have typically more people that visit you, the more happy they are. And it literally just kind of goes down in line. I think less often lapsed customers can sometimes be a little bit volatile, but certainly we see this as a trend throughout. This is my first time visit. This is the key one to really focus on. Do you track how your first time visitors feel about you? And what are you doing for this set? If you have people who are just a bit in the middle, what are you doing to analyse those people to get them back in? Because this is your biggest opportunity to turn these people into loyal customers. And equally, somebody who might visit you every 3 to 6 months, if they're a passive, you really want to understand, well, what do we need to do to edge them up so they would visit us more often? And again, analyse the data in the way to do that. We also send visit frequency data over to Airship. So again, you've got this in your single customer view, and you can map this out for careful marketing as well. So using a study like this, we're able to analyse some of the comments. And in one example that we did, we could see that the passive comments and the deep analysis of that, we saw time coming through. And this was kind of a real source of frustration. So actually, if we were speeding up the service, and what part of that guest journey was taking up too much time, thinking again about analysing the comments and the topics at the start of this section, then you could really nudge them up to being a promoter, which means they're more likely to visit you more often. And actually, in this example as well, we often see that promoters have a higher spend per head. So, you know, the scenario here really speaks for itself. You could convert 200 passives a month and basically get 56,000K a year in extra visits, because, you know, we've got a slightly higher spend per head, first of all, but also we are getting an extra visit out of these people as well. So by understanding where your customers sit, how often they visit you, what their gripes are that would push them up into their next bracket, and working on that, you can turn that literally into pounds. So my recommended actions here: use all data sources that are available to you. It's really important that you tailor your survey for your customer experience and drill down into that detail. So we work with a number of clients. You know, what is really important? The welcome is really important. Okay, how can we make sure that you are getting the information on that? So your survey needs to be tailored for your customer experience. Segment your data, as I've sort of given you some examples to, and use this to really know your customer. And again, you know, you can use that in conjunction with Airship as well. Analyse the feedback from first-time visitors, because they're also going to be more vocal. You know, they're going to be the people who are going to either badmouth if they've had a terrible experience, or you're going to turn them just into raving fans straight away, and then they're going to use that power of recommendation. Focus on those areas for improvement and make sure that you are monitoring progress, sharing those positives, you know, making sure that you share those with your teams. Prompted feedback will allow you to understand those meh customers. So actually what we find is that if you've kind of taken a more passive approach in terms of gathering feedback, and you know, you might have a link on the website or something on the receipt footer, actually if it's not prompted, the people who respond to those call to actions are only really going to do it if they've just had a really terrible time or really great time. You won't get those passives, those people who are a bit, no, I won't rush back. And actually you just don't get to hear from them. So again, we work with the guys at Airship to be able to send out a triggered email from a booking system or from a Wi-Fi or from a loyalty or from an order and pay transaction, and to have that prompted feedback, because then you get really a real balanced spread of feedback, and you get those people in the middle who, almost like the low-hanging fruit, you could easily turn them into really raving fans. But if you do have unhappy customers, do recover them quickly and with empathy, if you can't obviously do that while still in the venue. And again, you know, just get a response out to them as quickly as possible. We've got the integration with Toggle to be able to issue out goodwill vouchers as well if somebody hasn't had a good time, and that's all kind of a seamless approach. Okay, so on to my final little section here, and then we will have time, hopefully, for questions at the end. Yeah, doing well on time. So this is my one of two memes from Schitt's Creek, and I hope you're Schitt's Creek's fans.
You know, I am.
We were talking about this earlier, so I'm going to have to play that one again. I didn't play that again. There we go. So, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. I love this. When one of us shines, all of us shines. I can't do a Moira accent. I wish I could. Just brilliant. Share your goals with your team. Involve them in it. You know, actually, you know, what do we want to do? If you shared the feedback with them and shared maybe some of the areas, actually, you could probably get their input and all work together to achieve the same goal. Please don't set unachievable targets. If your NPS score is sitting at 20 and the industry is 58, please don't go in and set that at 58, because actually you're probably going to encourage negative behaviour. And, you know, they need to be small, achievable step change targets to get to where you need to get to. And you would expect that to happen over a course of time. But, you know, you can hold your teams accountable, but setting achievable targets alongside that as well, and encouraging all that input. Create a healthy competition, why not? You know, maybe in branch to branch or even within branch, you know, just create that little bit of healthy competition and rewarding positive behaviour. In our survey, there is an opportunity to applaud a team member if somebody has scored a positive service score. And, you know, just in July to December, we tracked 150,000 positive team member applauds. So these are great to be rewarding with your team and rewarding that positive behaviour, bringing them on your journey. And don't forget how vital team friendliness is going to be as well, because, you know, we just know that that's going to be so essential. Just to, the last thing that somebody is going to want to do is go into a restaurant where they're serving great food and great drinks with an atmosphere, but actually, you know, the team member is just not in a good mood. So, you know, just make sure that they've got a smile on their face and they're super excited and happy to be there. That's my summary for everything that I was going to share with you today. And I'm just going to go on to my last little page. Any questions at all?
It's amazing that so many gifts can come out of one show. It's just
Love that one. Look, I've got all of these question ones just on one page as well.
I know, it's crazy. That was fantastic. I mean, we're so lucky that you've put this together as part of this series. Honestly, amazing. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Julia, for hosting it. It was so, I mean, there's so much in there. I snipped about 7 or 8 different pages and then realized I actually have the deck already. That was quite foolish. But I do think, especially those recommendation slides, you know, the things that 9 out of 10 of them people would probably, you know, agree with and already know, but we're so busy as a sector. I think even just those, we're going to share all this after the session. Just, I'd advise anyone, sit down as a senior team or as the management team and just eyeball those recommendation pages, if nothing else. I know we're so close to kind of game day now on Monday, but just ask yourself, you know, are we doing these? Can we implement them? Is there anything we can do better? Because a lot of them are simple things. You know, visible cleaning was the one that I was like, obviously, you know, it's something maybe you didn't want to do so visibly previously, but if you're not seeing it now, it's going to really stick out like a sore thumb. There's so much useful stuff in there. Brilliant. Honestly, thank you. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
In fact, I think I forgot to mention at the start, you'd think I'd know how to run these things by now. If anyone wants to ask a question whilst just asking these two, if we've still got time, there is an option down at the bottom of your screens just to drop a question in there. And they could come through anonymously or they can come through named. So we've got 2 here. So yeah, just put it on the spot, Julia. One issue regarding feedback that we're concerned about is how we're going to manage track and trace for every member of the party now without causing longer delays or potential social distancing issues at the door. And then that kind of feeding its way back through to negative or not as positive feedback as the other things once they're inside the venue. And again, this is to do with the new guidance that every member of a party has to sign in through track and trace. Any advice on how to avoid that?
It is a difficult one, and actually we've been talking to some of our customers about how they're going to manage this moving forward. So, you know, you're going to have some people that just don't have the NHS app on their phone. I mean, they may not have a smartphone, first of all, but secondly, they may choose not to have the NHS app on their phone, and so therefore, you know, they're not prepared to start installing it and so on. So firstly, obviously you've got Schitt's track and trace solution, which, you know, you could also use, because actually they may be happy to, if they're not going to want the NHS one, then they might be happy to scan a QR code, which is going to take them to a different one, which isn't the NHS one. So that's one thing. I think, secondly, lots of our customers are using this to register people on through their res system. So just in the same way that if somebody walked in, you could register them on your table management system, you should also do this for track and trace purposes as well. And the great thing about that is that you get their data too. So obviously if they've opted in for marketing, then, you know, you'd be able to use that effectively. So I think if you can register and book them onto your res system, that there is another opportunity there. And I know that within our team, a number of our clients have added kind of the welcome as one of the ratings within our survey process. You know, how was the welcome? And because of the way that our survey works is that, you know, you'd have a 1 to 5 star rating for the welcome, and then you follow on and drill down. Track and trace delays, for example, could be one of those, or social distancing at the door, that kind of thing. Because I think you're right, if, you know, you're ending up with a kind of queue behind you and people then therefore not social distancing, that could also cause some negativity. So I think the point of adding it as a survey is to surface it quickly, so therefore it can be jumped on and acted on quickly as well. And I guess the other option is there the option to do it at the table, so, you know, you can seat people, so there doesn't become a queue building up. You can seat people, but maybe have an ops process in place that, you know, that those people haven't been registered and have it down. One of my local restaurants I went to, this was in between lockdowns, can't remember when I went, but you know, they literally had a post-it note and a pen on the table. I mean, local independent, and it worked. we left our details, but, you know, it can sometimes be as simple as that.
Yeah, it's been amazing watching all the different ways people have. There's been so much innovation and so much outside the box thinking over the last year. Okay, got time for one final question. Here we go. Okay, yeah, one that I think a lot of people will relate to. And interesting to hear your thoughts on this, actually, from feedback. So we're not the biggest fans of platforms like TripAdvisor. Is it actually time well spent responding to these customers?
Do you know, I get why. I get why operators, you know, don't like those public review platforms where everything is kind of aired out and you almost kind of have wannabe restaurant critics, you know, who will take pen to paper and put that on a public platform rather than tell you privately. But they do exist, and they are decision-making tools for people to decide where they want to eat and drink out. So they are important. And I think you've also got to, the reason why you should take the time to respond to them is firstly, it just shows that to that person that you do care, and that you know, obviously that you want to respond to them and recover them if they perhaps have not had a great experience. But importantly, it shows future customers then viewing that page that you have issued a response. And that's a really important factor for them people. You know, if there's a whole load of negative reviews and then there's just no response from the restaurant, actually, that just doesn't look very favourably. And how many people then have been turned off as a result of that? You just don't know, because they just haven't bothered to come to you. They've gone somewhere else. So that's one thing specifically on TripAdvisor. On Google, it's so essential that you respond to reviews on Google now, because there's SEO that is built into engagement on the page, and Google will use kind of your level of engagement on their pages as a way of helping kind of rank. So it's really, really essential that you're responding on Google. And, you know, you might not be able to do them all, but maybe respond to the ones that have got comments, or maybe even just respond to some of the negative ones to begin with, and the odd splattering of positives ones as well. So it's not really obvious that you're just only responding to negative reviews. So I think that would be my advice there. Facebook is a similar one. You know, the more you engage on Facebook, the more likely when you post content, it's going to go into someone's timeline using their algorithm. So yeah, it's really important to respond.
That's a good answer. Okay, good. And it must be tough. I appreciate it. I mean, I can't really relate, but on the other side of the fence, but it must be so tough to carve out the time to do that. But those benefits make total sense.
Yeah.
Right, we are pretty much at time. So rather than ask another question, I'll just take on behalf of everyone from the Airship and Toggle team, thank you again for doing this. That was really, really good. That was really good. We'll share the recording and therefore the deck with everyone that's registered and everyone that's attended after this, and we'll get it up on our social as well to give it a bit more, a few more eyeballs to it, because it's definitely worth as many people in the sector seeing as possible. And hopefully not too long until I can see you back in one more gay place propping up that bar.
Look forward to that. Thank you very much for having me and inviting me along, and good luck everyone from Monday. You know, can't wait to see you all open.
Absolutely. Yes. Right. I'll see you all soon. Good luck for the rest of the week. Thanks again, Julia.
Bye.
Speak soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye.